Something that doesn't come up very often on this channel is just my deep love for the Death Note franchise. I have been a fan of this franchise for about as long as it's been released stateside. I have read the original manga, I've read the companion book that goes with the manga, I read the L prequel book, I have also watched the 2 live-action movies from Japan, the Japanese fucking L spin-off movie, which was fucking atrocious, the anime, of course, like everyone else has, the TV drama I attempted to watch, and the of course, the Netflix Death Note series, the US one that came out, I watched that one. So yeah, I have seen my fair share of Death Note. I have consumed my fair share of Death Note. And whenever this franchise comes up, every so often I end up bringing up the fact that I'm not a huge fan of the anime. And this probably comes to a surprise to a lot of people because, the anime is easily the most popular incarnation of the series. That's pretty much the version that most people end up seeing first. And obviously I've stated before, I'm more of an anime guy than a manga guy or anything else, so, why wouldn't the anime be my favorite incarnation? And how could I possibly criticize the anime of all things when I gave a fairly positive review to the Netflix movie? Well, let me just get into all of that. My issues with the Death Note anime are kind of threefold. There are 3 things that really hold the anime back. Let me just say, I still think it's a fairly decent anime. Borderlines on good at sometimes, maybe even great, but just there's a few things that kind of hold it back in my mind. First off, I feel is the style of the series. The series is hyper stylized, and in a lot that can really play to its benefit. That's probably what got a lot of people invested in it. Was obviously there's the whole cat and mouse storyline, the really cool characters and the engaging back and forth. But also, the show is hyper stylized, and it's engaging, yes, but sometimes it's too stylized. There are scenes in the first episode, when Light's writing all those names and people are dying in that montage. That's awesome. I think that is a good use of the over stylized nature of the Death Note anime. But then you get into elements where it's too ridiculous. When L, or the classic scene of Light, I'll reach into the bag, I'll grab a potato chip, and I'll eat it. And he does that whole fucking scene. And it's the most mocked scene in the entire franchise, easily. And the manga, if you've seen that scene in the manga is completely downplayed. The manga presents everything in this very grounded, realistic sense. I mean, as realistic as a story about a kid with a magic notebook that can kill people and a death god that hangs around him. As realistic and grounded as you can make that storyline. But the anime just cranks everything up to 11 so frequently that it becomes distracting to the point that it becomes downright fucking humorous and goofy, and it stops being cool. And like I said, there are plenty of scenes that are still legitimately cool, but there are also just plenty of scenes where the anime just goes too far. It just goes right off the fucking rails and gets into self-parody of its extreme nature. And I find that really distracting to the story, the characters, and everything else that's going on. It takes me out of the experience, unfortunately. The other 2 issues I have with this anime are kind of companion pieces. Now, this anime stays very, very true to the manga, mostly. Obviously, there's the whole hyper-stylized thing that goes into effect, but beyond that, as far as its representation of the story and the characters, that is all very manga accurate, with the exception of a few things. First off, the second arc of the anime is only 11 episodes long. In a 37-episode series, 11 episodes are the Near and Mello arc, and the first 26 episodes are the L arc. And by the way, I'm going to start getting into really big spoilers, so if you've never seen Death Note and you don't want to ever get spoiled for this, you might want to back out now. Fair warning. Also, you kind of need to have some sort of familiarity with the series, so to understand where I'm coming from with my criticisms here. So as I said, the L arc is 26 episodes, the Near and Mello arc is 11 episodes. That's a very lopsided amount of storytelling there. It really makes the Near and Mello storyline feel just like this weird kind of tacked on segment, and just it's the anime is really just about L and Light and their fucking epic battle. That's anyone ever really remembers from the series. And then it's like, oh right, and then like they kill L off, and then it's like these two fucking kids show up. In the manga, it's a very different beast in that regard, because the manga, the Near and Mello arc is almost as long. I think there's like maybe a 2-chapter difference in length between the Near and Mello arc and the L arc. So they heavily truncated the Near and Mello arc, and they do it to an extent that it really hurts the pacing of that story, because you're constantly being pushed from one plot point to the next plot point, giving you just enough information in each segment to, you know, understand like the character, the motivation, the what they're doing and what they're going to do about it, and just going from beat to beat to beat. And it never gives you a moment to like kind of mentally settle into what the story is doing. And that second arc being so rushed really does fuck up the overall quality of it, because I think that story arc is a lot better in the manga. Now, the second arc in the manga is nowhere near as popular as the first. That is, you know, so I'm not saying like, oh, well, like the anime just fucked that up. Like, no, like they did that as a clear decision, because they're like, well, everyone cares about L and Light way more, so we'll just condense and just kind of like brush through the Mello and Near stuff. And the problem is, though, the Mello and Near stuff is still part of the anime, so you're giving us an inferior iteration of this story, and mostly it's because, you know, the backlash of killing L off. People are like, oh man, L was my boy, and you killed L off, you fucking ruined this entire series, it's garbage now. And that's not a fair criticism, because, and like, especially when it comes to Mello and Near, because a lot of people will be like, oh, well, Mello and Near are just complete fucking L ripoffs, and they're not. They are their own unique characters. Especially, like, you know, especially Mello, and a lot of this criticism falls back on Near, and Near is also not an L clone. You know, that, like, Mello and Near are supposed to represent the two extreme halves of L's personality, not to just be clones of him, especially not for Near to just be a clone of L. And that's just kind of like this thing that people are like, oh, there's a shitty version of L. And it's like, well, no, they're the two extreme halves of L and his personality. But anyhow, though, they still chose to adapt that storyline. Instead of just, I don't know, altering the ending of the L arc to just make it all about Light and L, they instead just chose to adapt the full manga, and full in quotation marks, and by doing that, they just heavily condensed that down. It's a real detriment to that story, it's a real detriment to the anime as a whole, because, like I said, you know, that second arc is still a part of this anime. You know, and it makes it feel like this awkwardly just kind of tacked on rushed storyline that's just shoved into the last part. You know, it doesn't feel like the rest of the series. So when people talk about like, oh yeah, Death Note was really great until they killed L off, it's like, you know, especially if you're an anime fan, I can totally understand that, because the Near and Mello arc is not presented anywhere near as well as it was in the manga. Because in the manga, it's a much, much better version of that story. And the third issue I have, like I said, this has to do with like how they changed the anime from the source material. And my third issue is the changes that they make. Like I said, it almost faithfully represents the story and characters as they originally happened. But there's a few little weird things that they do. Like, the episode where L dies. There's a filler scene tossed in that is completely out of character. And if you've never read the manga, you probably have an idea of what I'm talking about. There's a scene which I've always referred to as the L in Light yaoi fan bait scene. Like, you know, it's just pure fucking yaoi bait, where you have like them like in the rain and they're soaking wet, and then like they go inside and L is like drying Light's feet, and it's the gayest fucking shit ever. And I've been told that that's supposed to be like, oh, well, it's like a Jesus and Judah type thing, you know. It's, you know, because like Judah dried Jesus' feet, or like Jesus dried Judah's feet, and blah blah blah. It's a parallel. It's like, okay, well, fine, you're going for some sort of stupid fucking symbolism, but the symbolism needs to make sense within the context of these characters, and really, it doesn't. For L to be kind of in this weird mental state where he's like standing in the rain for no fucking reason, and then you have him drying Light's feet, like, cause L is like fucking like agoraphobic. Like, he fucking hates, like, he obviously doesn't like to touch people. He doesn't really like interacting with people. We see the way he holds everything in this very kind of just the tips of his fingers kind of way. You know, he never palms anything, and here he is, just full on molesting Light's feet with his hands. It's this bizarre, out of character moment that is just, like I said, it feels like, yeah, they may have been going for symbolism. What they ended up with was bizarre-ass yaoi bait. And I fucking hate that scene. And like I said, I would have no problem with that scene if it made sense within the context of these characters, and it fucking doesn't. So yeah, that is the one thing I really disliked about it, as far as changes that they made to the story. And then of course, there's like this weird, stupid fucking recap. Did they fucking truncate? Like, that's another thing that aggravates the shit out of me, is because they truncate the Near and Mello arc so much, but then add shit to the L arc, and then fucking have a recap of the L arc, where that could have been more time that could have gone to the Near and Mello arc, and try to give that a little bit more breathing room, instead of just barreling through the storylines. I even had a friend of mine who had never read the manga, and was just like, how, was that second arc really rushed? And I was just like, no, why? He's like, man, they're like blowing through these storylines like really fast. And I'm like, what? And then by the time I had gotten to it, I was just like, wow, yeah, they are really barreling through the storyline. So like I said, they add to the L arc, and then, like I said, they truncated the Near Mello arc, and then they changed the ending of the manga. Now the manga, for those who haven't read it, it does end differently from the anime. In the anime, also, spoilers, in case you haven't realized this is going to be about spoilers, in the anime, you have Mikami, he has this, thing where, to save Light, he friggin' commits seppuku with his fucking pen, splits himself wide open, gushing blood. In a hilarious fashion, because, once again, it's Death Note anime cranking things up to 11. So it's just like he stabs himself with a fucking pen and blood sprays fucking everywhere, and it's ridiculously goofy. And Light uses that moment to escape. And then he's like on the staircase, and he dies peacefully when Ryuk writes his name in a notebook, and he sees L, like this apparition of L, whether it's in his mind or if it's like the ghost of L, I don't fucking know, and I don't fucking care, but that's what he sees before he dies in the anime. In the manga, Mikami completely turns on Light. Mikami flips his shit, telling him, you're not a god, you're garbage, you're trash, blah, 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 blowing up on him. And Light is now all out of options, and then Ryuk drops down, and Light's just, yeah, Ryuk, write their name in the book, fuck all of them, fuck every last one of them, write their names in the book. And Ryuk, picks up the Death Note, and he starts writing in it, and Light just, I fucking won. And that's when Ryuk flips the book around to reveal Light Yagami's name written in it. And Light fucking mentally breaks. This person who has had so much composure throughout this entire story has completely fallen apart this one. This is his one big emotional breakdown. Like, even when he was outed as Kira, he's still cocky and arrogant. Even when being shot, he still maintains some level of composure, still trying to play the mind games and manipulate people to do whatever he needs. Trying to plead to Mikami. But, here, he's realized he's dead. He's lost. There's nothing he can do. And he's crying, and he's mostly breaking down. And it flashes back to a scene where Ryuk tells him, and this is in the original manga as well, and I think even the anime adapts this scene as well, where Ryuk tells him, that any person who uses the Death Note doesn't go to heaven or hell. And and then the scene ends there early in the manga. And then it goes back to that scene for this flashback, but it adds to it by having Light go, that's because there is no heaven and hell. And Ryuk's like, you're smart. So, yeah, it's that whole concept, and then so Light knowing that he has nowhere to go now. There is no afterlife, there's nothing for him to look forward to, and, when he dies, he becomes nothingness. And the anime, in the eye catch, references this, those who write in the Death Note go to Mu, nothingness. And, that still doesn't have the same impact of seeing Light just completely emotionally break down. This person who's had so much control and composure this entire storyline just fall apart and shatter as a human being. And that's really, was a really big moment for me in that manga. And then, of course, the manga has this big full page or a full chapter epilogue after that, which the anime doesn't even bother to adapt. And it just kind of ends there. So yeah, no, that's kind of my issues with the Death Note anime. And, I wouldn't have a lot of issues with these changes and things that it does if it just, wasn't so intent on following the manga as closely as it does. So, like, whenever it changes something, it's like this weird just punch in the back of the head, and you're like, what the fuck was that? Why did you change that random detail? It reminds me of the Watchmen movie, where the Watchmen movie would be so faithful to the comic, and then just every so often it would change something in a really extreme fashion, like Rorschach hacking some dude's head up with a fucking machete instead of calmly pouring gasoline all over his house and lighting him on fire. It's changing the scene and changing the context and changing the tone. And I wouldn't have a problem with that if it wasn't trying to stay so close to the original storyline. Like I said, I'm fine with how the Netflix movie changed everything, because it changed everything. It took the bones of Death Note and then crafted something new out of it. This just tries to be Death Note, the anime, but then takes these weird liberties, like truncating an entire storyline, adding bizarre filler to another portion, and then, fucking changing the ending. I mean, like I said, if they didn't want to do the Nier and Mello storyline, they just shouldn't have done it. The movies chose to not do the Nier and Mello storyline. And because these are movies, they had to alter a lot of things. And honestly, I think they ended up crafting a storyline that's stronger than both the anime and the manga, technically. So yeah, if you want to know what my favorite version of Death Note is, it's these movies. They're low budget, fairly campy because of it, but the story there is good shit. It's as far as storytelling goes, it's my favorite incarnation of Death Note. But yeah, no, that's my gripes with the anime, and I'm sure a lot of people will be bitching in the comments about how wrong I am and blah, 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 blah. Like I said, this is just my issues with it. You don't have to agree with my issues with this fucking anime. I don't care if you agree or not. Like, if you love this anime, hey man, more power to you, But, and I do like this anime. I like this anime enough that I bought it on DVD, and then I bought the fucking collector's edition on Blu-ray. So yeah, it's not like, I hate this anime. I still enjoy it. Like I said, I enjoyed it enough to purchase it a second time just to own it in the highest, like in the premium Blu-ray edition. So yeah, Death Note. It's a fine anime, but like I said, it's just, I was really underwhelmed by it, and it just doesn't live up to its hype for me. So yeah, if you haven't read the manga, read the manga. Go read the manga if you haven't read the manga. It's good shit. I really recommend it. It may give you a better appreciation of the the Nier and Mello arc. It might give you a better appreciation of that and those characters and that entire storyline. Because I really know, if you've only seen the anime, it is not a fair comparison. Also, check out those live-action movies from Japan, at least the first two. Don't watch L Change the World. L Change the World is a bad thing. But yeah, that's it. Zeon, out.